My soul has a price. Selling management developers on Puppet. Before I get too much into this though, I'd like everyone to come and listen to a story about a man named Jed, a poor engineer with sprawling data center dread. Then one day he's in a Googling mood, found a better way, so a plan was brewed. Puppet, that is, Hiera, Foreman 2. Well, the next thing you know, Jed's in the devil's lair. Poor guy said, I need to sell them on my wares. Replied, your soul is the cost, cause man, it ain't free to get the green light on your nifty puppetry. Skills, that is, speaking good, slideshows. Well, now it's time to show you, and I wish I had a beer. I'm still not good at all this presenting stuff here. You're all invited to watch at this locality, to have a heaping helping, and listen at least somewhat casually. Hilly Billy, that is, something about keeping your shoes on. It's the song. Okay, so first the obligatory about me. That's me, my emails. I've been using Linux since early 90s, professionally shortly after that. Like most people, I've gone from small enterprise to what could be considered enterprise. I've used a number of Linux distributions. This is only a small sampling. I'm currently at Apollo Global. I've been using Puppet for approximately 2 years, and I still very much consider myself a newbie. Very much consider myself a newbie. So the question is, why am I basically giving you guys a sales pitch? It's a very good question. Most Puppet conferences, Puppet Camp, Puppet Conf, they have all kinds of great technical information. How to use Puppet the best, all kinds of neat little ways to get Puppet to do the thing that you want it to do. But the one thing that I've always found missing is how to get that important first step. Got to click the right button here. And that is approval. Most organizations have some sort of approval process where it's just your manager, whether it's an approval board, whoever it might be, but you basically have to convince them that Puppet's going to be a good thing for your organization. Not everybody likes going in front of this approval board. It was a pain in the butt for me. It took me a long time to figure out what exactly I needed to actually get the green light. And I also came to realize that it's not only my managers that I had to convince, it's anybody who would be using my systems that would be affected by configuration management. In this case, the Puppet and surrounding tools that we're going to be using. So this presentation is basically going to be what I did, how I got it to work, the level of support I have, and hopefully some of it will work well for you. So what I found in my travels is there's basically 2 stages to have a good, successful Puppet rollout. The first is the obvious one: gather all your information and present it to the people that you need your approval from. These are going to be the benefits to the organization, and these are going to be the arguments, cons, or concerns that anyone in your organization might have. The second, often neglected part, but just as important, is the during phase. This is when you're actually doing your development and initial rollout or full rollout of your configuration management tool. The reason this is so important is, and I'm sure everybody's been here, a company has a new tool, the tool starts getting rolled out, causes all kinds of problems, and the tool gets shut down before it has any kind of penetration in your organization. You don't want to have that happen. You want to be able to make the entire organization happy with what you're doing and think you're basically a deity among men. For my organization, there was 2 distinct groups of people that I had to make sure I got approval and 100% buy-in from. The first is management, the second is developers. Both of them have their own unique set of benefits that Puppet will bring to the table. They also have their own set of concerns or arguments as to why you shouldn't be doing this. We're going to address all of those. First, benefits for management. I don't know about your company, and I'm not going to say definitively whether it was with my company, but we might have had a control problem with our servers. We had a lot of people that had elevated privileges on a lot of servers that had no business having those elevated privileges. People could make changes, people could restart the servers, they could basically do whatever they want. Server drift, huge problem. Using configuration management, obviously that brings it under control because you have a defined look of what your servers are supposed to look like that doesn't change. Even if someone makes a change on the server, Puppet rolls it back. Good deal. Stability. As long as you know what you're doing in terms of system administration, once you build a good template for whatever types of servers you're building, All your servers are either going to be really, really stable because they look the same, or they're going to really, really crappy. We like the former. We like having stable servers, and having good templates helps do that. And of course, there's always reports and graphs. Management loves the reports and graphs. Just quick pieces of information. They can screenshot, copy, paste, send up the chain. Everybody's happy with that kind of stuff. The concerns. How much time is this actually going to save? If you can deploy servers in 10 minutes, you're doing way better than we did. Is it really worth it bringing configuration management? There's some other benefits, but how much time is it actually going to save across the whole life cycle of that server? How much does the tool cost? You got to look into what your budget is. For my organization, we didn't have a budget. We had to go with the open source Puppet. I really wish we had budget and we could have gone with Enterprise. It would have saved me a lot of pain, heartache, and hassle. But it's one of those things you're going to have the information handy before you start talking to people. How much time is it going to take to implement the tool? If you have 100 servers and it's going to take you 2 years to implement Puppet throughout your entire organization, is it really worth it to do it? You only got 100 servers. If you have thousands of servers, it makes a lot more sense because that time to implement is spread across more servers. And accountability. How many tools have you rolled out? If there's no accountability as to who's using the tool, how the tool is being used, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Puppet and the tools that we're going to be using, and I'll be showing you some quick screenshot demos in just a moment, address all of these issues. For developers, again, their own special set of benefits and concerns. Some of them will look familiar, but they're different. Some of the benefits, obviously consistency. The servers are going to look the same once you have your initial templates for either the cluster or the base template or application, whatever however you're setting it up. Speed. We've gone, just an example in my organization, from taking days to roll out a virtual machine. Let that sink in. Days to roll out a virtual machine to where I can now deploy easily 10 plus VMs in less than 30 minutes. Huge, huge speed increase. Stability, again, same thing with the management. Our servers all look the same. All application servers in the cluster look the same. They don't have to worry about any kind of wonkiness happening on the servers. And ease of use. The tools we're going to be showing you today are all easy to use. I do not want to babysit my developers or my application people. I don't want them coming to me every 5 minutes. Hey, I need to make this change and I know you're controlling it. Yeah, well, you can do it. I showed you how, guys. Some of the concerns. Control. In this case, are they going to be losing control? Again, our developers and some other people have a lot of control on the servers. It's a huge concern for them. How are they going to know what items Puppet is managing versus what is not being managed? Needle in a haystack situation, are they going to have to ask me every time? Will they make a configuration change and hope it doesn't get rolled back the next time Puppet runs? That needs to be addressed. And just like everybody else, accountability is a concern. They like knowing if a change affects their application, their server, what have you. They like knowing who did it, why they did it, when they did it, and how to change it back to what it was. And obviously another pain in the butt tool. I don't know about your organization. I'm not necessarily saying it ever happened in my organization, but how many times your CXO of some level or another has a really good friend who needs to make a sales quota. So they buy a tool that doesn't necessarily solve a problem, but it gets rolled out anyway. You don't want to be in that camp. You want to be the tool that's like, we're so glad we have this rolled out that we don't know how we lived without it beforehand. Let's see. So, what I'm getting ready to do is a presentation in a presentation. This is the presentation I gave to my management team and the developers team. There's a few differences between the two. Some are management only slides, some are developer only slides. I'll make sure I'll point that out. I also like to point out that I gave this presentation to the two teams at 2 different times. With management, it was with a very anemic proof of concept of these tools, just enough so they can get a good grasp of, hey, this is a good thing. With the developers, I wait till I had a much more fleshed out proof of concept with some actual VMs that represented the applications that they have to deploy, so I could show them how quick and easy they can get their job done and how much of a benefit this would be. The last thing to point out for this presentation, in the presentation, is the terminology I will be using is not always correct in terms of the Puppet world. I tailor the terminology to the audience I'm presenting to. Developers understand variable value and not necessarily parameter value. So don't think I don't know what I'm talking about when I use different terminologies based on who I'm presenting. So having said that, guys, welcome to my configuration management presentation. This is literally the third time in my life I've ever presented something, ever. The first time in front of people I can actually see. So this is a little nerve-wracking. But before we get into exactly what's coming down the line, it is coming down the line, it would help you to understand my philosophy in terms of my job in relation to you guys. This is a developer-only slide, by the way. The developers, application, and operations team, we have a symbiotic relationship. We do not live on islands. My servers are bricks without your applications. Your applications are ones and zeros without my servers to run on them. We have to work together. We're a team. To build on that, my job is to provide everything you need to do your job to the best of your ability. If you have a requirement, I have to find a way to make that requirement happen. It might be a compromise. I might have to swallow it and just say, okay, we're gonna do it this way, even though it freaks me out. But I can't get in the way of you doing your job. If that happens, the organization gets pissed off at everybody, and that's not a good situation. Building on that, I have to provide stable, secure, consistent servers. Nobody in the company is going to be happy if your applications run really weird and nobody knows why. This one's crashing every once in a while, can't figure out why. This one has unauthorized access all the time, nobody knows why. Server rebooted randomly, we can't have that kind of thing happening. They have to be stable every time, secure every time, and consistent every time. And lastly, I have to provide documentation. I can have the best infrastructure layout in the world. If I get hit by a bus on my way to get coffee, and you have to hire a new guy, and he can't understand the wonky way I did stuff, you're starting from scratch. And that's just gonna cause chaos throughout the entire IT environment. We don't wanna have that happen. So having said that, this is the current state of our data center. Cats. Why are they cats? Because there's no accountability. They don't listen to anybody. They do whatever they want to do. Free range, their own attitude, the whole bit. And no offense to you cat people, not a big fan of them. This basically makes the whole situation untenable and we cannot continue. So what do we actually want? Unlike what was mentioned earlier, we don't necessarily want cows. We would like dogs. Why do we want dogs? Dogs can be trained. They can be trained to do anything. Sit, stay, roll over, shake, restart Apache if it crashes, make sure something's listening on this port, only allow these people to log into the server. These are dogs, this is what we want in our infrastructure. They can be trained. For almost anything. I actually have a boxer and I'm just waiting for this to happen when I get home one day. It's gonna be fantastic. How are we gonna make this happen? We're gonna be using 4 tools together to make all this wonderful stuff I'm talking about actually a reality. We're gonna use Puppet, Hiera, which I've been pronouncing Hiera up until I heard this morning that it was Hiera. Then I'm going with Hiera because that's what my mind says it is. We're going to be using Foreman and we're going to be using MCollective. Normally at this point I would actually be giving you live demos. I'm not doing live demos, they're going to be screenshots of our live setup. So bear with me if it seems a little, doesn't flow very well. So first, Puppet Labs, what is it going to bring to the table? Guys, this is a developer only slide. This is for developers. Configuration and build consistency. Every server will have a base configuration that is exactly the same. Every server in your application cluster will have an extended configuration that is exactly the same. They will look exactly the same, and you're going to help me make sure that happens. Rapid deployment. Once we have these set up, I can build you servers all day long without even thinking about it. Not a problem. Not that I want you to ever forget to bring infrastructure into a project until you actually go live and say, oh, I need 30 servers. Forgot to tell you guys. But if it happens, I'm not going to be up all night deploying those servers. I can build them really quick before lunch. But don't let it happen. Security and compliance. We do have security and compliance issues. Right now I have to jump on every server and manually add users to the sudoers file and or any other access controls that we have. It's not a good situation. With Puppet, we're going to actually make that more automated. These tools are also the very first step into full build automation. You need a server, we're going to click a button, your server's there. Nothing else needs to be done. You need a server, we click a button, your server's there. You need 10, I click a button, you have 10 servers. Full build automation is the goal. This is the management version of that slide. Guys, I'm not saying we have a control problem, but we might need to regain control of some of our servers. This is a thing we have to deal with. How is Puppet going to help with that? If the developers or application people do not use the Puppet tools to make changes for things that we manage, the next Puppet run, their change gets rolled back. Eventually, they'll get pissed off enough and say, why are my changes happening wrong? Why are they getting rolled back? Because you're not using the tool. You need to use the tool. You use the tool, your changes stick. All the rest of the stuff apply to management also. I'm not going to, for time, go into that. So again, we're talking about the benefits and concerns. We're addressing each and every one of them. Hiera, 50-50. We're also going to be using that. Hiera is an external node classifier. Basically, it's another piece of software that tells Puppet or a client what it's supposed to look like. It has some benefits that normal Puppet doesn't bring to the table, which is one of the reasons I'm using it. One of the big ones is separating the data from the code. What does that actually mean? First, we have to go into a little details about Hiera. It uses a hierarchical data. Everything is split into a hierarchy. You get to define what the hierarchy is. The way we're using it at Apollo, in order of most or possibly least important to the other end of the spectrum, we have host to app to role to environment to data center. To give a quick example of what all that means, from the host level with Hiera, we can add to or overwrite data at the app level in Puppet. At the app level, we can add to or overwrite data at the role level, to the environment level, dev, QA, test, prod, et cetera, to the data center level. It's a very powerful tool, one of my favorite in the world. With Hiera, there's only one place where you need to change data. Only one place. Hiera uses a configuration file and a directory structure for its layout. The configuration file is a YAML file. Don't worry about what it means, it's just another markup language. But you make the change in the configuration file, so it's a text file, and it applies to whatever hierarchy you're assigning that change to. One place, and also less repetition. Adding a new hierarchy is quick and easy. We add a new data center, just copy recursively the directory of your current configuration, you just add a new hierarchy. Takes you less than 10 seconds. Best to show with an example. Oh yeah, no changes to the Puppet code. Almost forgot that one. You have a good solid Puppet module that takes variables as part of its arguments. You don't have to change the Puppet module ever. You put the values in Hiera. Puppet looks up those values, and depending on the hierarchy, the values can be different or cumulative, and the changes are applied, or the end effects are applied. So, quick example. Let's say your NTP servers blew up somehow or another. Junior admin really thought pouring Coke would make them happier. Who knows? Either way, they're dead. You need to build new ones. They're built, but now you have a whole new data center, or a whole data center that has to know about these new NTP servers. Easiest way to go about it with our setup, open up the text file in Hiera, change NTP1 to NTP2 to what your new NTP servers are. Very easy, 2 seconds. The next Puppet run, every server in the Riverpoint data center has a new NTP servers. You didn't have to do anything else. Done. That is huge, huge time savings, instead of having to go to each server manually. The other tool we're going to be using is Foreman. Foreman is another external node classifier. It's a little bit different than Hiera. The main reason I chose Foreman has a nice web UI. I don't want my developers to have to worry about arcane Linux commands where they're weird command line arguments and 3 string long text. I don't want to have to worry about that. Give them point and click, make it easy. They're much happier that way. And managers like it. So again, not a live demo, just screenshots. When you first log into Foreman, you're presented with this basic dashboard. One thing to bear in mind, guys, this is not your servers. This is the Puppet environment. Just because you show 2 hosts in an error state, and I hope you guys can see that all the way in the back. Can you see it at least a little bit? Yeah, okay. Just because it shows your host in an error state does not mean your server is down. Does not mean your application has crashed. All it means is the last Puppet run, something went wrong. Nothing more, nothing less. Please bear that in mind as we're looking at all this stuff. So there's the default dashboard, just some basic Puppet stats for your environment. Reports, management, we love them. Foreman also uses a sort of logical separators. We use them, we have locations, which I'm not going to get into because of time, and host groups. Host groups are fantastic. We use them similar to the Hiera hierarchy. We have it separated at the top level by data center. Generally at the data center level, the Puppet modules are the same, but the data will be different. Different NTP, DNS servers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The next level we have for separation is virtual versus physical. At this level, in general, the only differences are some of the Puppet modules that are added to these servers. VMware tools, you're not going to put that on virtual servers. HP utilities, that's not going to go on virtual machines, for example. The next level is the application level. Each application we have has its own host group. This could be anywhere from different Puppet modules to the same Puppet modules with different data for those Puppet modules. It just depends on the application. The last level is the environment, dev, QA, staging, prod. Generally at this level, 99.9% of the time the Puppet modules are the same, but the data can change because we promote changes just like they do any other software development. Start in dev, work to QA, staging, and then only prod after it's proved itself out. So if we click on one of those host groups there, we're presented with the Edit Host Group screen. There's a lot of information going on here. On the left-hand side, we have included classes. Those are Puppet classes that have already been included for this particular host group. On the right-hand side are the available Puppet classes that you can add to the host group. The first one to look at is down at the bottom, Apollo Tools Clock Tick. You notice it does not have a minus sign next to it. That is because that particular Puppet module was added to a parent host group. It is inherited from that parent host group. However, Apache 2.4 with the minus sign was added at the current host group. So you can add modules anywhere along this hierarchy. If you want to add a module, on the right-hand side, you click on the little plus, it shows up on the left. Module's been added. Done and done. Easy, easy, easy to use. The next page we're going to look at is the parameters tab. This is where most of the action happens. The parameters show a list of all the Puppet classes, their variables, and the values that are assigned to those variables. As an example, up top, we have the Yum Puppet class, and you probably can't see that at all, but it has 4 variables: RHSCL, Red Hat Software Collections, Yum Path, Yum Repo Version, Yum Server. Next to that is the default value for that particular parameter. And to the far right of that is override. What does this mean? It means if you don't like that default parameter, you click override, and what happens, you get a little text entry field down below with the name of the Puppet class, the parameter you're changing, the current default value. With a text input field, you can change the value. Easy, easy, easy. You click submit, your changes are done. You decide you don't like those changes, you click that little X next to the one you changed, and it's back to the default value. At the very bottom, there are some global values. These are not Puppet class values. These are global values that Puppet classes can use. For example, Yum Repo Version, we have a global value of 2013-09-18. You probably can't see it, but that's okay. But the Yum Repo Version has a default value of a variable that is the value of this. So whenever the Puppet run happens, it grabs that value, inserts it into the Puppet class, and you're done. And like anything else, those can be overridden. Ease of use, again, they're not losing control. Their control is just happening in a different place. We're addressing their concerns. So let's say we want to make a change to an individual host. That's easy too. Using the search function, because I'm lazy, we start typing in the name of a host we want, just like everything else in the world today in dynamic updates. We have 2 matches with some basic information in the output of the matches. We're not going to concern ourselves too much with that right now. So let's click on one of those server names. We're presented with the default page for a server, for a host. On the right-hand side, again, Puppet run information for this particular server. It's not your server, it's the Puppet environment. Since it's not a live demo, I can't actually click on these buttons and then come back and click on these buttons and come back and click on these buttons and come back. So I'll just highlight the ones that we're going to be looking at. Audits, facts, reports, and YAML. We're going to be looking at audits, reports, and YAML. Down below that, and some basic properties of the server in relation to your infrastructure and Puppet. And on the right-hand side, edit, build, run Puppet, and delete. I don't like the delete one, but I can't remove it yet. I'm still working on that. Yes, they can kick off a Puppet run from within Foreman. Very easy to do. They make a change, they want to apply it now. They don't have to wait to the change window. They don't have to wait for Puppet to run manually. Click the button, boom, it's done. And edit. We're going to start with the edit button. Looks exactly like the host groups, right? It's because it's exactly like the host groups. Only it's only for this specific server and not an entire group of servers. I'm not going to go into detail because it is exactly like the host groups. And I don't have 2 hours. Thank God. Parameters tab, exactly the same as the host groups. You have your public classes, the variables, the values, the defaults, the overrides. You have your global ones on the bottom with the current values. You can add parameters, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I'm not going to get into details because we've done that already. So let's say you made a change on one of your servers or a cluster of servers or a host group for an application. You want to make sure your change actually took effect because it's your first time using Puppet and you're not really sure, you don't trust the tool yet, whatever. The way Puppet works is, here's that YAML file again. The Puppet client says, hey master, what does it look like? The master says, oh, here's a little catalog of what you're supposed to look like. It sends it back. The Puppet client says, oh, okay, well, let me make sure I look like this. That catalog is this file. This is the YAML file that actually gets shunted back and forth between this whole transaction. And the file is basically, it's an array, a hash of arrays, an array of hashes. I'm with you, Mike, I always get that one wrong too. But it's basically the classes, the parameters, and the values for everything that's going to be sent to your particular server. So let's say you made a change to Apache and you changed log level from error to warn. Well, you click on the YAML button, you pull up Apache 24, you go down to log level, you change it to warn, it's there, you're good to go. Now you can kick off your Puppet run. Again, ease of use. We gave them a way to find out what items are actually being managed. Address your concerns. We can do this all day long. So you kick off Puppet. You go get a cup of coffee. You come back. Something happened wrong. You have a couple options. You can log into each and every server that you made the change on and try to figure out what the error is. Or you can click on the reports button in Foreman, this nice little web UI. Pull up the last report, and there's that error message proudly displayed for you. Shows you exactly what happened. Go back, make your changes, reapply it. It's the circle. Just keep doing it until you get it right. Hopefully you know what you're doing. Ease of use, I guess. I was never really happy with that particular one, but yeah. This one's one of my favorites. Audits. Developer makes a change. I make a change. I go on vacation, or I just don't tell anybody about the change. Something blows up. Everybody using Puppet because they know that they have to use the Puppet tools. Nobody cops to it. Everybody turns into not me. Not me, not me, not me. Pull up Foreman, go to the audits, do a quick search. You can see who did it, what they did it to, and when they did it. Accountability. This isn't always necessarily to say, you jerk, stop changing my servers. But if they did something good and the guy goes on vacation, you want to know what good thing he did, like that never happens, it's still there too. Accountability. Come on, next slide. Okay, the other tool we're going to be using is MCollective. MCollective, by definition of its name, separates everything into collectives or groups of things. It's kind of a theme here with the tools that I'm using. The way we're using MCollective for these groups of things is we're using environment, dev, QA, staging, prod, and the application name. So you have dev, Foreman, you have dev, Apache, prod, load balancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what does Foreman actually do? Like it was mentioned earlier in the first presentation, it allows you to run specific commands on groups of servers in parallel. and it does it really freaking fast. It's fantastic. Groups of servers in parallel, specific commands. Gone almost are the days of SSH for loops. Everything in serial. Never enjoyed that. So just some examples of the power of MCollective. The command MCO inventory list collectives, pipe it through shell sort. This is just giving us a basic output of what collectives we have in our infrastructure. The output is the name of the collective and how many nodes are in each collective. For example, in River Point, we have 147 at the time of the screenshot. I've added quite a few since then. In the UK, we have 32. Again, I've added quite a few since then. And pardon the wonky output, I pipe it through shell sort. So it's sorted the way shell wanted to sort it, not the way that sounds good with or looks good with MCollective, so things are weird, but you get the gist, right? Queried 180 nodes. It doesn't have the time output here, because I probably chopped that off. The output was actually like 3 terminal screens long, and I wanted you to see the command and the output, so I had to do stuff. Shell shock. You remember shell shock? It was pretty recent. That was a pain in the butt, right? Not for me, it wasn't. It was cake. Why? Because MCollective has a plugin, a package plugin, that lets you query your entire infrastructure for a specific package. And what does it do? MCO package bash status. It queries all the servers, gives you back what architectures. We're all 64-bit here. And every version of bash, how many versions of bash are across your data center. And I forgot to highlight it, but all this happened in less than a second, 457 milliseconds. That's fast. I knew exactly where I was vulnerable, when I was vulnerable, and how vulnerable I was. There's another plugin that I'll have a screenshot of, a Yum plugin, MCO, Yum, bash, update, everyone, and basically queried all 180 nodes, updated bash on all those nodes. It was done by the time I finished my cup of coffee. Cake, the power of MCollective. Time savings. Management loved this one. However, my developers really love this one. More oohs and ahs and holy craps from this one command than anything else in the presentation. Let's break this down real quick. MCO service HTTP status. Let's pretend it says restart instead. Batch 1, batch sleep 30, T prod Moodle. So in order, the HTTP service, we're going to restart it. One server at a time. We're going to sleep 30 seconds in between restarts, and we're going to hit all the production Moodle servers. From one command center server, sorry, not good at words here. You run the command, instead of logging on to 15 different servers, restarting Apache, making sure it comes back up, restarting Apache, making sure it comes back up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One command restarts it everywhere, and you can make it do it one at a time, sleep for however long it takes your services to restart. Took 60 seconds. A little bit longer than half a second, but we did tell it to sleep 30 seconds in between restart, and we only had 2 nodes for this particular one. They loved, loved, loved this. My iTalk loves this one also because they can restart VAS on all our servers at the same time, even if only one server is having a problem. Doesn't matter. It's cake.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In that scenario, are you saying you were waiting for Apache to actually come back up, server restarted, wait 30 seconds, then go to the next?
Yes.
Okay, not just stagger every 30 seconds.
No, it actually, so if Apache does not restart correctly when it's doing the restart, the whole command craps out. I'm done, right? It's not going to keep doing it and break your entire cluster.
So did they need elevated privileges?
Probably, and there's some stuff that you can set up elevated privileges or set up better security. I haven't really done too much of that yet because I want to make it easy for them and easy for me. I want to get it rolled out. That'll be coming. But there are some ways to, these users can only do these commands on these servers kind of situations, but it was way more difficult than I wanted to deal with yet. I'm human. So again, they're not losing control. The control is being placed in a different place. Hopefully the control is better, easier, and faster than what they were used to before.
Is that part audited too?
I'm sorry?
So with the previous tool, with the web GUI, it's totally auditable, but with the MCollective,
Excellent question. So the question was, is MCollective audited also? Yes, but not inside of Foreman. MCollective communicates with ActiveMQ, and that's where the auditing happens with MCollective and the ActiveMQ log. It has the username because they don't have root on the server they can run MCollective from. So from there, it has their username, the commands they ran, and date timestamps kind of stuff. So yes, it is audited. This one, they also liked MCO, RPC file manager status, file name, and a collective. Basically what that's going to do is gather a whole bunch of information to the file argument. The example I used that they really loved is you have 5 Apache servers that are acting really wonky, you don't know why. So you run this command, start with the php.ini. You can grep for the MD5 sum. If they all match, that's probably not the problem. Go to the http.conf file. If those all match, that's probably not the problem. Again, took 273 milliseconds for these 2 particular nodes. The longest I've had a command take is less than half a second for the entire data set. Over 200 nodes now. Saving time with this one was huge. They loved it. They don't have to open up, again, multiple terminals and more file name, okay, space. This makes it really easy for them to see if files are the same. And size, they can grab for size too, whatever floats the boat. So that's what's coming, guys. We are going to have configuration management with those tools. I'm going to be rolling it out ASAP. I have a very aggressive timeline for the rollout. I will need some help from you guys, not a whole heck of a lot, but some. Most of it's going to be on me, so you can be happy about that. But I want to have it done by the end of summer. I want everything puppetized by the end of summer. So what's next after this happens? Full build automation. I mentioned that earlier. I want to push a button and have servers for you. I have things, no offense guys, that I'd rather do with my time than build you servers. It's part of my job, but I should be able to just click, 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 and you have a server. More access controls. We do have a problem with access controls. We need to enforce it better. These tools, these are the underlying tools that will make that a reality for us. For management, easier reporting. Again, the foundation is laid. Building better and easier reports is very important to them. Patching is a logical extension. I've written some custom scripts already that are ready to be implemented for patching. It's going to be fantastic. And that's going to free up a lot of time for me. A lot of time. So, they're sold. Everybody loves it. Everybody wants Puppet. They're like, do it, do it, do it, let's do it now. What's the next step? Now you have to actually implement it. Again, this is more crucial than almost any aspect of the whole selling of Puppet. Going back to the earlier example, you have a tool, it starts getting rolled out, it causes way more problems than anybody ever wanted to have happen, and it gets shut down. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that tool. So how do you do this? Communicate. Communicate and communicate. Communicate often, communicate with detail, communicate. And I'm not saying this is the best way to do it, it's just what worked for me. When I was rolling out Puppet, 2 weeks prior to rollout, I sent everyone an email, hey guys, here's a list of servers that in 2 weeks I'm going to be rebooting and puppetizing. A week out, same exact email. Guys, these are the servers I'm going to be rebooting and puppetizing. If you need it to change, tell me now so I can make arrangements, otherwise it's happening. The night before, the same exact email. Guys, tomorrow is the day, it's happening. 5 minutes before rollout, same email. Guys, I'm doing it now. It's too late, you can't stop it. Communicate. Nobody at any time during my rollout said, oh, what did you do? I wasn't aware of this. Everybody got the emails. Put your plan in an easily accessible place. If you have a wiki, put it on the front page or one link deep. You don't want to have it buried under link after link or menu and menu and menu and menu and menu. Put it in an easily accessible place. If you have SharePoint, I'm really sorry for you. Put the link to your plan in your email signature. Put it in your IM signature. Put it in your text message signature. Put sticky notes in the bathroom. Whatever you have to do so that everybody knows, guys, this is happening. They know where to find more information. You don't want anybody to come to you and say, whoa, I was living in a cave. I didn't know what was going on. Sorry, I smoke signaled it last week. I know you got the message because you replied. Any concern that comes up, address it. Doesn't matter how silly, trivial, or obnoxious the concern is. Address the concern. We had a guy, I will call him Bill. It might or might not be his real name. Some of the particular servers he worked on after they were puppetized, almost like clockwork, on a weekly basis. Hey David, did you make any changes with Puppet on my servers? I don't believe I did, Bill. Why? What's going on? My servers are weird. What's weird? I don't know, just something's weird about them. All right, let me go check. I mean, he has access to the same tools I do, so he could have checked, but he didn't, he IMs me. So I checked, and sure enough, absolutely no changes. No changes for weeks. Why? Because it's a stable build, and we haven't had to make any changes. So I let him know, no changes to the servers build. What is actually going on? Give me some detail. I will see if I can help figure out what it is and make it not weird. It's probably something in my environment. I'll deal with it. Every week, almost the exact same thing from the exact same guy. It got to the point where the IM would pop up, and I just drop everything, go have a cigarette, and then come back. Okay, Bill, what is it today? But I always address it, every time. You know who my biggest advocate is? Bill. He's now IMing me on a regular basis. Hey, David, can we add this to Puppet? Can we manage this with Puppet? Can we do this? I think we need to add this to it. Constantly. It's fantastic, but still obnoxious. Be available. Don't make your change on a Friday when you have a 3-week vacation coming up. Be available. Plan for these things. Murphy's Law. Yes, Murphy. So the whole time I've been practicing this at home, it's always been Moore's Law. So I had to put a little note in my thing that it's Murphy's Law, not Moore's. So I'm happy I got Murphy's Law right. Murphy's Law, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. You don't want to be the one responsible when you do a massive change, everything breaks, nobody can find you, and nobody knows the Puppet infrastructure except for you. Be available. You make the change, don't schedule vacation, don't schedule a drunken night at the bars that night. Be there for at least the next couple days to make sure everything smooths out. Again, you want everybody to be happy with what you're doing. You don't want to cause any problems. So that's everything I have. Any questions? Yes?
You said you wish you had the enterprise version. How would that have helped?
Good question. The question was, I wish I had the enterprise version, how would it have helped? The tools that I'm using, except for Foreman, are married together better with the enterprise version. So a lot of learning and reading and figuring out and that whole bit would have been mostly non-existent because they're built to work together with the enterprise version. It would have saved me some time. Anybody else? Oh, sweet. Thank you.